Hey guys, welcome to another game from Fight Night featuring Mr. Garretz here. Of course, someone from the team, the Madman. And here it's a game featuring Zoe Aphelios with Buildrotter versus TF Fizz. And I, of course, imagine that the reason he doesn't have TF in his deck is so that he can have TF in his other deck, which would be TF Fizz in his lineup. So our opponent plays Fizz, and obviously while he doesn't, it's not a great spacey sketcher in terms of discards, because his opponent has a Fizz. He wants to block the damage. So unless our opponent also plays Poro Cannon this turn, then they're not going to be able to attack with the Fizz, which means spacey sketcher gets nice value. He takes the Moon Silver because Moon Silver is going to be really good with Temple, for example. It's going to maybe let him drop a really critical card a turn earlier. Maybe Aphelios triggers, Nightfall triggers. If he draws Aphelios, he can play Aphelios turn 2. And also, the Charger and the Moonglow are just very underwhelming, because Moonglow, any spell you want to protect your units against at slow speed is just going to get countered on the stack by the spell you're trying to protect your units against anyway. So here our opponent plays Ballistic Bot turn 2, and in this position he should play the boxtopus and trade it into the Ballistic Bot. And the thing is, the reason he doesn't want to do it is because he wants to save his boxtopus for a Twisted Fate. The problem with this is that it's not like his boxtopus is a Mystic Shot. Like, if they play Twisted Fate, they're not going to just drop Twisted Fate when he has the attack token. They could easily, for example, play other cards on turn 4, and then play Twisted Fate turn 5, maybe pick a card, and then by turn 6, the time he can actually attack with it, they'll just level their TF, which is possible. Another thing is, they can just remove TF with Mystic Shots or get excited. So even if he gets to pull the TF before anything happens, they might even be able to prevent it. So here, even though Twisted Fate is a higher priority target, it's not even guaranteed that it's not even close to guaranteed that you'll be able to use Boxtopus as a Twisted Fate removal. So here, where you can trade it for a slightly lesser value target, and yes, Twisted Fate is technically much higher value, but if you consider the fact that, Twisted Fate isn't coming for several more turns, right now, the Ballistic Bot will generate notable value in the meantime, dealing plenty of face damage, giving them lots of Fizz and Fizz triggers, etc. So, with these things considered, it is important to take this trade and just get it out of the way now. So now, here, there is Temple. So he has the option of playing the Moon Silver on the Temple, but it's not all that rewarding because it's not really going to trigger this turn. Although, on the other hand, the benefit would be that he could, for example, play Fangs plus Pale Cascade next turn. But either way, while that would be appealing, he can just cleanly play. Okay, so now he plays Boxtopus. And so, as you can see, even though the Boxtopus wasn't played last turn, it's not really any more impressive now. And here he chooses not to take the block, still with the Boxtopus. So now this Ballistic Bot is essentially already dealing at least 3 face damage, most likely more. And again, even though you do want to be able to answer the Twisted Fate, the number one problem is that you don't even know that it's going to answer the Twisted Fate. So they play the Suit Up, and obviously Garretz saves the spell mana because he has no reason not to, and also he might want to trigger Temple. So here our opponent has exactly 4 mana, which means they can't play Twisted Fate. If they choose the red card, for example, we can simply Pale Cascade and they would lose the Twisted Fate. So from our opponent, even if they had Twisted Fate, they shouldn't play. They should wait until turn 5 when we don't have the attack token, and then maybe even pick a card and things like that. That would be assuming, of course, that they had options like Twisted Fate, pick a card, and they were considering, and they would probably play something like Zap this turn or otherwise. So you always take this pass. You don't want to use your Force or Temple triggers, because even though it is a +1/+1, the mana you can't really use in an effective way this turn. You don't have you're going to be using your temple triggers that you would have been using later on anyway. It's a lot less important when you don't have Aphelios, because Aphelios keeps generating you free cards to trigger temple with, and you spend the mana on as well. So in this position, playing Temple is obviously very good, because here he can Moon Silver and play the Fangs, even give it +2/+2, or play Moon Silver and then play the boxtopus, and just getting double Temple trigger this turn is just very nice. Okay, so because obviously the Moon Silver triggers the first temple, the boxtopus ate the buff, and therefore now the Fangs does not get the buffs anymore. But this is also good because now they can no longer as easily remove their challengers, and so they will inevitably lose their elusives here. And so here he plays the boxtopus over the messenger because he wants to open attack and not have to worry about red card. Obviously, it does mean that they won't be able to answer the Twisted Fate, but there's not much benefit in at this point. There's not much you can do to actually prevent Twisted Fate, which is the main reason I propose that he should have pulled the Ballistic Bot on turn 2. So now, as you can see, this Ballistic Bot has done essentially 4 damage, and we do have to target the elusives now. Well, presumably in this position, you challenge the Fizz with the 5/3, and the Ballistic Bot with your 3/1, and then you attack with the Zap's Brayfin, because at this point Ballistic Bot represents at least as much damage as Zap's Brayfin, because it does 1 damage per turn, and so you don't want to give them the free spell triggers as well. They're more than happy to spend the 1 mana on the ignition these rounds, so that's why not only is the Ballistic Bot a more higher priority target, but also if they choose to block the Fangs with you can use Pale Cascade on it. Although they do, of course, have the option of using the Get Excited. So here what they should do is they should take the block, and then when we Pale Cascade, they can use Get Excited. And of course, the main downside, of course, is that they choose not to, is because they want to play around the temple buffs going on our 5/3. But I haven't really done the exact math. I'm not even sure. They might even be able to level up Fizz. I'm not sure. They decided that it wasn't worth it, but I don't even think it's that bad for them if they let this let Garretz have a 7/1 challenger, because at this rate the lifesteal is more valuable to Garretz than the challenger. In fact, a large reason he took this open attack is because he wants to kill off his boxtopus so that he can start putting buffs on his Fangs and start really turning that into a healing machine, where it basically means that his opponent needs to have lethal in 1 turn, or else they won't be able to get through this massive Fangs. Which is why he's actually very happy that they don't block. Obviously, it's an attack you take anyway. If they choose to block, then you have to accept that. You can't afford to not attack with it just for lifesteal value. That's just ridiculous. They would be more than happy to not do anything with it. And so, as you can see in this position, this is simply a clean start shaping. Obviously, you play the messenger first in case you get something like Aphelios. But right now in this position, because of actually, yes, also because you don't actually get your mana back. Since Temple does not return excess mana into spell mana if you place the star shaping. Actually, yes. So if you place the star shaping first, it doesn't trigger the temple, but he would need to play the doggo anyway. So there's not much reason to not check for Aphelios, basically. So now in this position, I prefer Living Legends. First of all, Living Legends is really, really good with temples, because it means that you have more than 10 mana with it. Or I should say 10 max mana. If you can even play it at like 8 mana, in this matchup, you never want to play it before 8 mana, because Cosmic Rays is one of the big hits with this option, and it doesn't refill spell mana. So even with Temple, you're never going to be able to refill up above your max mana. which is why Cosmic Rays being one of the best hits means that you only want to play Living Legends at turn 8 or later. But it is very good. He has a very empty hand, meaning he will get a very nice selection of Celestials to spend his mana on. The Destroyer is not all that impressive. The Living Legends basically means that at worst, even if he played it on round 7, he'll probably get at least a Destroyer's worth of value, and a very nice selection. Other great options include ways to answer Twisted Fate and things like that. Also, challengers, elusives, and obviously Cosmic Rays. Actually, even Golden Sisters would be very good. So now here he plays the Pale Cascade anyway, just to cycle it, which is understandable because he doesn't have a great way to spend his mana. He knows he's probably going to play Cosmic Rays round 8 or round 9. He's going to empty his hand a little bit. The Pale Cascade is not great. He's not going to have the best way to trigger Nightfall without anything nice, and also he wants to spare the mana. It's not even impossible for him to play Living Legends next turn, depending on how it goes, although unlikely. Very unlikely, in fact. It's most likely that his plan next turn is going to be Hush onto some elusive unit, and then block with his lifesteal, trigger double temple so that he heals for 7. Whatever their last attacker with is, basically, so that he lifesteals after the damage, or the second attack. Either, you get the idea. He's not going to block the first one, but it will obviously probably be either for a really high value elusive or for the maximum amount of healing. And so right now, you can already see that Garretz's hand is very low value, low flexibility. He has a 1-drop and a Hush, basically. The Duskbringer is pretty much irrelevant. He's pretty much relying on the Living Legends at this point, so he has to be very careful in terms of resource management long term. He basically is, in this position, you're almost committed to turn 8 Living Legends, unless you top deck something really relevant. Is how you should view this position. And so it might be Cosmic Rays, it might be things like Messengers. Messengers would be really good. Written in Stars, very, very good. Being able to draw a champion. Meteor Showers, 1 for 2. The biggest thing about Written in Stars, obviously, is that it's not a lot of mana, and it also gives you some long-term resources. He doesn't want to play the Zoe yet because it would simply be a very strong red card. And so by the way, I think I forgot to this is good. So here, his opponent is debating back and forth. So here, Garrett's top decks Star Shaping, and now before you play the Star Shaping, first you should think about what you're looking for from the Star Shaping. So the best options would be cards like A, Cosmic Rays, B, Great Beyond, C, Destroyer's not bad either, and also Cosmic Inspiration. Cosmic Inspiration would be very strong. You just play it this turn. It would make your Zoe a very safe blocker. You don't have to worry about red card anymore. It would be a really strong play this turn. So here, he doesn't play anything right away because, first of all, he doesn't have a lot of long-term resources, so he's okay with passing. Our opponent has 3 fleeting cards. He doesn't have the most beautiful attack. It only heals him for 2. He can always take the heal next turn, or the next attack token. He's not too threatened to get lethal next turn because he does have Living Legends to prevent it. So he is happy to open pass. And our opponent obviously starts playing their fleeting cards, so he keeps waiting a bit and seeing what happens. So at this point, they have 1 fleeting card. It should be about time for him to start playing cards soon. So in this position, you should realize that Star Shaping's healing is most likely going to go on the fangs. So you do obviously want to trigger the temples so that your fangs are buffed, which is why when you go for the attack, you don't want to open the attack right away. You want to be able to have 1 temple trigger. For example, you play either your your Duskbringer or your Zoe, so that when you play the star shaping, you do get your buffs just in case. Basically that you can get your buffs at burst speed. So this is a pretty long game, and we're reaching the critical moments. Our opponents is obviously having a very hard time deciding what to do. Their attack is not all that threatening. Garrett's hand is not all that impressive. They're debating whether they should accept this pass or do something. So here they try to get excited, and this gives a very distinct play. It helps Garretz make his decision. This star shaping is at this point unquestionable. There's no other option, making his decisions very easy. And so in this position, you can feel free to pause the video. I'll wait a bit so that you can see the back a bit more clearly. As you can see, Garretz is very distinctly hovering between the options. Now, I will be clear. Supernova is useless. Well, not useless, but not something you want to be spending 9 mana on. The Scourge is strong. In 2 turns, he will have the attack token, and he'll have the mana to play the Scourge. So that's also very nice. So then I ask of you, what card would you pick? And now if you've thought about it, I will tell you, Garrett's picked the Scourge. And when we discussed it, we decided that Cosmic Inspiration is simply crushing. Because first of all, you're going to attack with the Fangs. We know that. But the other thing is that we can play this turn. We're going to be able to have decisive plays in the upcoming turns where we otherwise had no plays. We were most likely going to play Living Legends on round 9. But the key here is that we definitely want to play the Cosmic Inspiration this turn. It's going to just simply transition the rest of the game into easy mode. Everything is going to line up cleanly. The Zoe is going to be a guaranteed elusive blocker. They're not going to be able to red card it. His 1-drops become threats. Like, he basically, he's not going to even need the Scourge to present lethal, because he's going to have attacks this turn with his 1-drops and 2-drops and deal free damage. Eat up their blockers for free because they want to develop elusive units for lethal, but it's going to be difficult because they have to block. And then we're going to be full healing every 2 turns as well, so they're going to be draining resources just to survive, always on the back foot. We're constantly full healing. And then by the time you play the Cosmic Inspiration, this game becomes almost unlosable. So, that's why you should play the Cosmic Inspiration this turn, and probably drop Zoe or Duskbringer and then Cosmic Inspiration, and then not play your other 1-drop this turn. Obviously, even if you have board space, because you want to get 1 spell mana for next turn, so you can play Living Legends next turn, and then you can always play your 1-drop after if you have the spare mana. So here he picks the Scourge because he's trying to he's tunneled on this. I win on turn 10, basically. That's the idea here. And so that's what he plays to. But the problem is that they can still gold card to survive turn 10, and he still has to fight back and forth for a little while longer. His opponent still has options, still has outs, whereas if he just was able to slam Cosmic Inspiration here, our opponent would essentially have no counterplay. We would just slam Living Legends, and almost, unless he low rolls immensely, there's no way Living Legends won't win the game on the spot, basically. So here, obviously, he doesn't want to play Zoe because of red card. Okay, so our opponent plays the Fleeting Mystic Shot on the Nexus because they want to do something with it. So here, it is important to remember that our opponent basically has to have lethal in 1 turn, because our Fangs is getting +2/+2 every turn. So I'm just going to skip forward a bit while our opponent makes their decisions, because we are focusing on Garrett's point of view. So our opponent plays a Burblefish, and we play Living Legends. Now, if you look at this Living Legends, you just played a burst speed spell. So you soft pass and see what they do. So you check if they want to take the pass. However, right now, it is important to know that we have 7 fleeting cards, and 13 mana. Our opponent still, you have to remember that our opponent has still does have a finite amount of resources. Even though they have a lot of cycle to level up Twisted Fate quickly, for example, the number of cards in their hand is still very finite, and it will go down. So, and another thing is they only have 8 mana. So right now, we have so much mana, we should not accept the end round when they return the pass. In this position, you should play the Meteor Shower. It removes 2 of their elusives, and then they have to work again to build it up to even... They have to threaten essentially like 18 face damage right now. We have 1 blocker. We even have Pale Cascade to save it if necessary. And the Meteor Shower also triggers Temples, which means you're back to 8 mana, so they still have to play around it. Now, it is important to remember here... our opponent, when they develop an elusive, you can still, you don't play the Immortal Fire. Actually, you can actually you if you want, take a moment to pause the video and think about how you would play the rest of this turn if Garretz doesn't accept the pass. I did mention the Meteor Shower, obviously. You can think about the rest. There's a lot of options in his hand, and I really want you to explore them. So now, I did give some hints, obviously, because I forgot it was a good moment to pause the video. But after you Meteor Shower and they play another elusive, you can start passing now. You can give them some time. You don't really need to be that. You don't need to be that. What's the word? You don't need to be that. You don't need to feel very urgent. A high sense of urgency. Yeah, because first of all, you got rid of 2 cards for basically for free, and then you shouldn't play Immortal Fire, because the thing is, once you play Immortal Fire, you free them up to do whatever they want. You want to have the 8 mana to bluff them. So rather than playing Immortal Fire, you can play things like Written in Stars, give you that Aphelios, Calibrum, maybe phase into Gravitum, and so you'll still have mana left over and a lot of things for your opponent to worry about. Make them have to think and stress, and don't put that option on you, because right now, if we play Meteor Shower, they'll have 2 elusives and still have to set up a tremendous amount of elusive damage with a finite number of cards. They didn't play pick a card last turn, and then you can play, and then with your Written in Stars, you have a lot of long-term value, a lot of long-term safety. So even if they gold card your Scourge, there's just no way you lose. He did accept this pass, and so the rest of the game really plays itself without really much for me to talk about. The absolute key was turns 7 to 9, basically, where with the 2 star shapings. That's where things really, actually, I should say from the second star shaping to the Living Legends. Those are the main critical turns that really decided the outcome of this game. If he just played the Cosmic Inspiration, the game would be over, and if you played the Meteor Shower last turn, the game would still be over. Those are the main things I wanted to share with you. I hope it's evident why they're good, why these were such excellent missed opportunities, and I hope you learned something from this video. Garretz was there with me when we analyzed it, and he didn't realize there was this much either, because he said he felt like it was just an Aphelios game, and then he was like, oh, but I was actually completely winning for like the entire game, even without Aphelios. So again, that's pretty much all I've got. So here he waited until he had a reason to attack, and now obviously they have to block. So the thing is, this was actually a little bit important. So here, the reason he didn't attack here is because he doesn't want them to chump block with the jury rig, and he actually holds the Equinox because he bluffs Crescent Strike. The idea obviously being, if they develop next turn instead of open attacking, I will Crescent Strike and then lethal you with my next open attack. So develop your board, set up a lot of damage, override your jury rig, so when I attack, you have to chump block with your Twisted Fate. And that which was a very nice play, actually. I forgot to mention that. So we'll move forward here until the attack. Obviously, you attack with the 2-1. It's not very valuable on the bench, and all of their units have 2 health, so they don't have good blocks. And so so now they did threaten lethal, which means he can no longer bluff Crescent Strike, and he has to play the Equinox. But actually, there was another misplay here. I forgot to mention here with the wait, when did he play this? Right here, actually. I so sorry, I forgot to mention. Here, I totally overlooked this. He was supposed to pick the Trickster because Equinox removes one attacker temporarily, and the key is that as long as he doesn't die in 1 turn, he has lethal on the next open attack. So, Equinox, while it removes 1 elusive attacker, the Trickster puts a hard cap on the number of elusive attackers they can have, unless, of course, they have Get Excited, which in which case it would have went face anyway, and he would have been screwed for the same card. Of course, this wouldn't be the case if he picked Cosmic Inspiration, but that's another story, because he would have won already. So here, if he picked the Trickster, obviously they would only have 5 elusive attackers. So even now, when he Equinoxes, they can simply overwrite the Burblefish and still have 6 elusive attackers anyway, whereas Trickster would prevent that. And so he actually got, by the way, I want to make this clear, it's actually very unlikely that our opponent can punish these misplays simply because it's not supposed to be this easy to get 6 elusive attackers. But the key is that because we didn't pick Cosmic Inspiration, we allowed them to not have to block. Because if we picked Cosmic Inspiration, they would have had to block with some of their elusives. And also if we played Meteor Shower earlier instead of passing, we would have also forced them to have a lot more resources. And when I said to find a number of cards, just look at their hand. Like, look how hard it was it took everything they had to develop this board through all of our mistakes. So obviously they did have everything. They had everything they needed, and still they just barely was able to present lethal. So just imagine if we did just one thing differently, we would have still won that game. There was the Cosmic Inspiration, the Meteor Shower. You could even play Written in Stars there, and it would win you the game. You could play, if you pick Trickster, you would win all of these things, and he just won by the smallest margin. And he had this number of opportunities to just push it back behind that tiny margin. So obviously, I'm not shit talking him. He played very well, but the game is at a state where players aren't that close to mastering the game. There's a number of missed opportunities, and that's why I'm started this series. I want to make evident to you that even for top players, there's still a gap between how good the best players are right now and the highest potential that can be achieved for essentially perfect or near perfect play. And I'm trying to present you the best way to approach the situations that were seen and missed as well. Obviously, this was a bit more complicated because it was it is in depth. But if you are low elo, do check out the low elo series that I'm working on. I have more videos planned for that, and when I get more submissions, I will upload them. If you have videos, you can submit them yourself. With that said, have a great day. This was a really long video, a lot longer than I intended. I could have made it a bit shorter, sorry about that, but I'm sure you can, for those of you who are anxious, you could speed up the video, and I will see you guys tomorrow.